All right, so here's tonight's homework. We're looking at STAR Practice Set 1 on decimal operations. And so let's take a look at question number 1 where it reads, a rope was 9 and 2,500 inches long. Lester cut the rope into 7 equal parts or piece lengths. So what was the length of each piece of rope in inches? All right, so I'm going to circle that 9 and 2,500 inches long and underline that part. He cut the rope 7 equal pieces of length. Okay, so now I'm given a total amount, and I'm given a part, and I need to find out another part was what is the length of each piece of rope in inches. So it has to be a part. So we've talked about in class where I have a total and I have a subtract. It's going to either be a subtraction or a division problem. And in this particular case, it's going to be division because I have the total amount and I need to cut those into 7 equal parts. 2, 3, 4, 5. So what is this? This. So how much are each of those parts? And so I need to divide. So my total amount is 19 and 2,500 divided by 7, and that equals. So those of you that are still struggling with division, you can take your divisor and multiply this, and your answer will be 19 and 2,500. So you multiply that by 7, multiply that by 7, multiply that by 7, multiply this by 7, and that will equal 19 and 2,500. So which one will equal 19 and 2,500? Those of you that are still skillful in your division, I'm going to have my 7 and 19 and 2,500. Where my decimals at, I'm going straight up. I'm going to mark that first, put my multiplication. 7 goes into 1 0 times. 7 goes into 19 2 times because 2 times 7 equals 14. I'm subtracting that out. 9 minus 4 is 5. 1 minus 1 is 0. I'm going to bring down my next number, and that is a 2. 7 goes into 52 7 times. And you see where my 2 is at? I'm putting it right there. Because 7 times 7 equals 49. Subtract that out, so you have it repeat. I have to regroup, so I'm going to borrow one of the 10s here. That becomes a 4. I'm going to put that 10 over here into my 1s. Now it becomes a 12, so 12 minus 9 is what? 9? 12. That's 3. And 4 minus 4 is 0. I'm going to bring down my 5 now, and that's at 5. 7 goes into 35 5 times, because 5 times 7 equals 35. And my remainder is 0. You can see that. And so that makes my answer 2 and 7/500, which the answer is B. And so you can see it there. Please make sure that you show your work and your thinking so that I know that you're understanding it. If you understand this completely, I want you to put a star. So if you see a question like this on star, you know you are ready to go. If you didn't understand it, make sure that you put a question mark. All right, let's look at the next question. Teresa drove her car on a long road trip. Now, most of you, your parents take you on a long road trip. Well, this one here is when she started on her trip. Her car was at 87,429 29 and 8/10 miles. So that we're talking about the odometer in the car. When she returned from her trip, her car was now at 89,413 and 3/10 of a mile. Question is how many miles did Teresa drive on her trip? Okay, so we're looking for how many miles. So I have a part, and I have a part, and we're needing to find see when she started her trip. So we have, I'm going to start this over here. When she returned to her trip, this is the total amount that was here. So we have a total, and then we have a part, and we're needing to find the other part. So when we're doing that, it's either going to be subtraction or division. Now, in this particular case, we're not going to be dividing equal parts. We're just needing to take a difference. So I have my total of 89,411 and 3/10, and I need to subtract it out from my other 87,429 and 8/10. And that equals to, what is my next part? Okay, so now I'm going to subtract this out. If you are confused about your subtraction, you can take this part here and add it to this here, and you will equal to 89,411 and 3/10. So I'm just going to write this one time so that you can see it and remember that. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to subtract this out, so I'm going to show you it. 89411.3. And I know you're saying you're not supposed to say point. You're absolutely right. 87,429 and 8/10. Okay, I'm going to bring down my decimal here. I need to regroup. I'm going to take a 1 from here. That becomes a 0, and that's a 13. And so, can you see that? Sorry about that. So now I have 13 minus 8 is 5. Because I have 8, 9, and 10, and left over is 3. So that's 5. Now I can't take 9 from 0, so now I need to regroup again, and I'm going to make that into a 10. 10 minus 9 equals 1. Okay. Now I can't take 2 out of my 0, so I'm going to regroup to my 4. That becomes a 3, and now it's a 10. 10 minus 2 is 8. And this was my 3. Can't take 4 out of 3, so I'm going to regroup. That becomes an 8. That becomes a 13. So 13 minus 4 is 9. And please give yourself more room than what I'm giving here, because I'm just kind of having to eyeball it, and I don't want you to do that. So use more paper and more room. Okay, so now I have 8. 8 minus 7 equals 1. And so my answer is you traveled 1,981 and 5/10 of a mile. So I'm looking over here, and which one equals that? This one right here. Now don't get confused. Remember, I use that as a plus sign. Okay. All right, next one. What is the quotient when 85/100 is divided by 5? Remember, quotient, don't get confused, it's just the answer to a division problem. Okay, so I'm going to have 85/100 is divided by 5. So now I'm going to have 5 is my divisor. 85/100 is my dividend. My decimal's going straight up. My multiplication's here. 5 does not go into 0. 5 goes into 8 one time, because 1 times 5 equals 5. I'm going to subtract that out. 8 minus 5 equals 3. Bring down my 5. 5 goes into 35 7 times, because 7 times 5 equals 35. Subtract that out, and it's 0. So my answer is 1700. Okay. Let's make sure that you're practicing on that. Adding, subtracting, and dividing, your decimal stays put, doesn't go anywhere. The only time it moves is multiplication. All right, turn to the next page. You're going to see a lot of these models on STAR, so I want to make sure that you're completely understanding of what you're doing. Not a lot, but you're going to see a few. Okay, which model represents 1 4/10 divided by 2? Okay, so now you need to look at which one represents 1 4/10. So remember that this one here is a 1 whole, and then you have 4/10. And you're going to divide that into 2 groups. Okay, so if you need to do it that way, do so. Don't hesitate. So let's look at this first one. When we originally start, do we have 1 whole right here? Okay, and do you have 4/10? 1, 2, 3, 4. And did you divide those equally into 2 parts? Okay, so you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So here you have 7/10, And here you have 7/10. And did that give you, so you have the 1 whole and 4/10, and it's divided into 2 parts. So that looks like it's going to be pretty reasonable. Let's look at this next picture. You have 1 and 1, 2, 3, 4. You have 1 and 4/10 and 1 and 4/10. And how many groups do you have? You got 2 groups. So is that a division problem? Did you take your 1 and 4/10 and split that up into 2 equal parts? No, that's going to be, it looks like it's going to be multiplication, because you're going to 1 and 4/10 times 1 and 4/10, because I would have 2 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8/10. Okay, look at this one right here. How many? You have 1 whole. So I'm going to put an X over here. You have 1 whole and you have 1 whole. Okay? All you did was you just put this one right here. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's 1 whole and 1, 2, 3, 4/10. And so that doesn't, not going to even match your equation, because you didn't divide that into 2 separate equal groups. And here you have 1 whole and 1, 2, 3/10. Okay, and that's not even divided into 2 equal parts. So your reasonable answer will be A. Because here you have 7/10 and you have 7/10. And if I had 2 goes into 1 and 4/10, I'm going to bring my decimal up. 2 does not go into 1, but 2 can go into 14 7 times. 7 times 2 equals 14 minus 0. So this is 7/10, or this is another way of writing 7/10. So either way, you have both. This is the same. Okay, those are equivalent. And here you have 7/10, which could be written 7/10 because your 7 is in the tenths place after the decimal. All right, let's go on to number 5. Mackenzie earns $5.25 per hour for babysitting. She babysat for 8 hours last week, and then she will babysit for 6 hours this week. So how much money will Mackenzie earn babysitting during the first 2 weeks? Okay, so I know that this is how much she earns per hour. Last week, she babysat for 8 hours, so it's last week, 8 hours. And this week, she's going to babysit 6 hours. And she's making this. So how much does she earn babysit during these 2 weeks? So I'm going to need to, I'm going to put Mackenzie earned blank for the 2 weeks. Okay? So now I need to know, and this is how much she makes per hour, $5.25 per hour. Okay? So I know that, first things first, I need to add up, because if it's per hour, if I wasn't sure, I can immediately put this into a T-chart, or input-output. And for every 1 hour, this is hour and this is dollar. So for every $1, and the rule is it's multiply it by $5.25, she earns $5.25. For 2 hours at $5.25, she'll earn $10.50. So if I'm multiplying by $5.25,